Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. For me, it's already afternoon. I'm currently connected from Yerevan. Welcome to this first regional webinar of Skills Lab Network for 2026. We are opening with today a series of 4 regional webinars. We start with the Western Balkans and Turkey region, a brief introduction on the Skills Lab network. This ETF network is a platform bringing together researchers and experts in the field of skills demand who are willing to exchange on skills demand, skills anticipation, and to discuss on how future skills are changing. We are now almost 900 members in the network from the partner countries where the European Training Foundation works, EU member states, and also beyond. So we are really becoming a global platform. Going back to the regional focus of this network, you may know that in addition to these networks-wide events, we have dedicated sessions like the one of today to address specific thematic areas which the members from the regions have highlighted as of strong and particular interest. Today's topic will be visibility and value of skills in algorithmically managed work. We are planning the next 3 regional webinars in the coming months. The next one will be in June, will be dedicated to the Southern and Eastern Mediterranean region and will focus on the attractiveness of technical and vocational education and training in the region. Whereas the webinars with a focus on Eastern neighborhood and Central Asia will follow later on in the autumn. First of all, I wish to thank our regional facilitator, Branka Angelkovic, for the great job she has done with the design of a program for today and for the coordination with all the speakers who will contribute to the discussion. So thank you so much, Branka. I will give you the floor in a few minutes. And a big thank you to the speakers for being with us and to all the participants. As I mentioned regarding the topic, we are going to discuss today how algorithms can impact skills both in digital labor platforms, but also in traditional employment environments. The objective will be to examine and discuss how this algorithmically mediated work can or is already reshaping worker skills, how workers are evaluated, how their skills are defined and measured, and how the skills can be developed and also anticipated. And based on this, we will look at major policy gaps identified and at practical approaches. The topic is extremely important for the European Training Foundation. We have been analyzing the broader topic of platform work through research that we have conducted in EU neighboring countries between 2020 and 2024. Our aim has been to, first of all, explain and understand the nature of platform work. What is the role of artificial intelligence within it? What are the key characteristics of platform work and how they can impact on skills development and skills anticipation? But you will hear about this in more detail in a few minutes. Just a few words on today's agenda. As I was anticipating, we will start with an opening overview of ETF research conducted on platform work by my colleague Mirela will deliver it. We will then go through insights from countries, from Albania on skills and data, from Bosnia and Herzegovina on the challenges faced by workers on making their skills visible. Then we will hear from Kosovo on the implication for skills development systems, reskilling strategies and micro-credentials, to conclude with a presentation from the RSA on aligning skill systems across the Western Balkans. This is in a nutshell our agenda for today. We will have a dedicated question and answer slot after each 2 every two presentations. So you will have a chance to interact with the speakers after the presentations. Whenever you feel needed, you please use the button on the React to raise your hand so that you can take the floor, or you can also write your question in the chat. Thank you so much again for being with us, and I'm very happy to pass the floor to Branka Angelkovic, who is the chair facilitating the webinar today, and she's our regional facilitator of a network for the region. Branka, over to you.
Thank you, Christiana. Good morning, all, also from my side. It's a great pleasure to have you today with us, talking about and discussing this, I think, very interesting topic related to algorithmic management and skills. I believe that we have a really strong panel today, bringing different perspectives from research, policy, and practice across the region. So we decided to have 3 blocks of presentations, after each having 10 minutes for Q&A. Having said this, please post your questions in the Q&A in the chat. This will keep us in engaged conversation. Don't be shy. Share your perspectives, examples, and experiences, because this is the aim of these webinars, that we actually learn from one another. So I will start with the first speaker. This is Mirella Gavocci, who is a human capital development expert at the European Training Foundation, focusing on skills systems, labor market transitions, and the impact of digitalization and AI on work and training. Mirella will not be talking about all of this today. She will actually help us frame today's discussion and set the broader context for how skill systems are evolving in response to digital transformation. She will present the ETF work and research that Christiana already introduced. This research has been done in waves for many years, from 2021 until 2024, but it continues also throughout these days. The presentation will cover platform work and new forms of work. And now, Mirella, I think I've said it all. Now the floor is yours. Thank you.
Many thanks, Branka, for this very kind introduction. Dear all, depending on where you are, good morning, good afternoon, and thank you very much for being part of this webinar. It's also a great pleasure for me to be here. I will share with you the main findings of the ETF research on new forms of work, and more specifically platform work across ETF partner countries, including the Western Balkan countries. So throughout this presentation, I will use the evidence that has been collected from the several regional studies that we conducted between 2021 and 2024, with focus on how digitalization is shaping labor markets and employment relations, employment opportunities, and skills demand. I will close this presentation with a summary of the updated methodology that we are implementing right now in Ukraine on the same topic. So before jumping to the methodology that we used and the results of our research, I decided maybe it was better to introduce with the main concepts related to platform work. So in the next slide, it's a list of concepts related to platform work, new forms of work, because I wanted to reassure that we are all on the same page. It's very important to recognize that platform work is part of a broad transformation of labor markets. And digitalization has been able not only to change the tools we use to work with, but it also has changed the way we access work, the way we organize and manage work. So, and based on this, it came out also the concept of new forms of work. But platform work is just a part of this broader phenomenon. And what makes platform work so unique, so special, is the fact that it relies on the digital labor platform, which is used as an intermediary between the worker and the customers or clients. And within platform work, we have both on location and online platform workers. On-location platform workers are workers that match with the customers online, but the services are delivered physically, while online platform work is referring to the situation where everything, even the services, are delivered remotely and digitally. So the digital labor platform has been able to be used not only just as a tool for communication, but it also is able to actively manage access to work, the ratings, the payments, the matching between worker and customer, and also part of the work organization itself. At the same time, there is also digitally enabled work that does not fall within the dimension of platform work. Why? For example, there are cases where the online freelancer is providing independently services to the client without the use of the digital labor platform as an intermediary. In that case, we are not talking about a service delivered within the dimension of platform work. So it's very important to be aware that platform work and freelancing, they overlap as concepts, but they are not the same. They are not identical concepts, and new forms of work goes beyond platform work alone. Having in mind that we have different new forms of work and their characteristics is very important, because these new forms of work are accompanied with different working conditions. They are accompanied with different levels of algorithmic control, different types of skills needs and policy challenges. I think now we can move forward to the explanation of the methodology we used for this research. For the research we conducted between 2021 and 2024, we used a mixed method approach because we want to exploit both quantitative and qualitative information. We started with an intense desk research, relying on the most updated academic literature, reviewing policy regulations, policy documents, regulatory frameworks, statistics as well. And in parallel, we tried to select the most important online labor platforms, international ones such as Upwork, Freelancer, and Guru. But also, we did not forget the importance of domestic platforms, such as, for example, Kabanchik in Ukraine. It all depends on the country context. And from this platform, we extract quantitative information through the web scraping. So we did automated data collection here. And all this work was complemented with stakeholder interviews and focus group. Why? Because it was very important for us to get the perspective of the policymakers in this topic, to get the point of view of the representatives of the various platforms. And it was also essential to know, to better know the experiences of the platform workers in this dimension, in this form of work, to know their experiences, opportunities they see while they are working and are part of the platform work, the challenges they face. This gives us the opportunity to have both statistical trends, but also lived realities of platform workers across ETF partner countries. Moving to the next slide, here we have just a roadmap of what we will, how we will navigate in the next minutes. From the research we did, I will share with you the main dimensions of our research, and for each dimension, the results that we got when we tried to analyze the presence of platform work or not in our partner countries. So we can start with the next slide, talking about the prevalence of platform work. From our research, we realized that the scale and maturity of platform work is not the same. It's very different across our partner countries. But there is a clear trend that platform work is becoming more and more important, a key component of the labor markets of the ETF partner countries, especially online platform work. And when we were looking at the information, the research used from the various digital labor platforms, we noticed that, yes, there are some international ones, such as Upwork, Freelancer, or Guru, that were intensively used from platform workers in general across ETF partner countries. And of course, there were also domestic platforms used from platform workers, especially from on-location platform workers. And in our region, when we talk about Western Balkan countries, Serbia and North Macedonia were the countries who were leading, who were most intensively using this type of this form of work. We were also interested to know more about the reasons why people are involved in this form of work, why people choose to work, to be part of platform work. So in the next slide, you have information about what makes so attractive platform work and what's not working, what are the challenges. We differentiate between online and on-location platform work. And when we're trying to understand which are the reasons why people select platform work, the first keyword that came out was flexibility. It was a great opportunity for people to select and to be flexible when you talk about working schedule and possibility to work remotely. And another important factor was the possibility to gain extra money, to gain an extra income, especially for online platform workers who now are exposed to the global digital labor market, and they have higher opportunities to find a job. So they are not limited to the local labor market with low opportunities for jobs. And at the same time, for the same online platform workers, there was also the possibility to upskill and reskill through their experience while working in this form of work. While the research considers several positive aspects of platform work and is very enthusiastic about it, at the same time, we go also on the other extreme side. We recognize several challenges that are present on platform work, because most of people working and being part of platform work are self-employed or are informally working, so they are part of the undeclared work. And of course, we are talking about a situation where the ground is shaky, and people recognize the fact that the income they receive, first, it's not a stable one, and this is not a positive aspect. And the labor market regulations are very limited. So they recognize that there is low job security and low or lack of social protection. And especially for on-location platform workers, they highlight the challenge they face to see platform work as a good opportunity for their career development in the long run, I mean. We can move to the next slide, where we talk about the profiles of the workers, because we, of course, were interested to know what are the characteristics of people working in this dimension in platform work. And of course, we notice similarities and differences between online and on-location platform workers. In general, they are all, most of them, they are young males. But when we looked at the online platform workers, they tend to have higher education, and they are more involved in sectors related to software development, creative industries, communication, and data-related services. So services that require a higher level of educational attainment, higher level of skills. Meanwhile, the situation is different for on-location platform workers. They present a more diverse background of education levels they achieve. And of course, they are part and delivering services such as ride-hailing and delivery services characterized by a lower demand for higher skills or higher cognitive skills and higher educational attainment. Having an idea of the differences between online and on-location platform workers, it's very important, and we understood through research it's essential to make the differences, because this is also translated into differences of skills needs. And while the differences of skills needs are present, this is also translated into different policy challenges that have to be taken into consideration when we address the negative aspects of platform work. Another dimension that was important for us to be taken into consideration, and it is presented in the next slide, in whatever we do as an agency, we focus a lot on skill development. I believe you are aware of this now. And we couldn't do differently in this research. So for us, it was very important to better understand skill development in the partner countries. when talking about platform work. And as I said before, when we look at the online platform workers, most of them have a higher educational attainment, and they are not required only to provide professional technical skills, but these people, in order for them to succeed in these labor markets, it's very essential to prove that they have advanced skills such as digital skills, communication skills, entrepreneurial skills, proof of having the capacity to be self-regulated and proficiency in different languages. And we noticed also that this type of workers, they upskill themselves through self-learning, and they rely less on formal education and training systems. And with this, we came out with questions such as, okay, now what happens with recognition of skills? What about certifications? What about lifelong learning opportunities? On the other side, when we talk about on-location platform workers, as I said before, the services that characterize this type of platform work require lower skills, and it's clear that workers are much more qualified for the skills they are requested. And this is also associated with the risk that in the meantime, these people will face de-skilling, which is a huge problem. And of course, these people notice also the limitations in the opportunities for career development, despite the fact that some digital platforms, while we were doing the research, some digital platforms were trying to initiate some possible investments in skills training related to advanced skills training. This was very important for us because we confirmed that the need that education training systems need to adapt to the changing of the labor markets, and we noticed the importance that should be given to the digital skills and transversal skills. The next slide is a slide that condenses a lot of information. I will try to quickly summarize it because I would like to also look at the new methodology that we are implementing. This is a slide that summarizes the main strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats we discovered while we were doing the research across the different regions by looking at the platform work. Of course, we noticed that platform work is a window of opportunity, especially for youth and women, and giving the possibility to be flexible in different working arrangements. And it was also an opportunity to upskill, especially online platform workers. But at the same time, this faces also many challenges due to the unstable income people receive, due to the fact that there are limited labor market regulations to protect the worker, due to the differences in opportunities. And when we look at the long-term perspective, I would like to highlight the opportunity that people have by being open to the global market and have the possibility to develop globally relevant skills, and the fact that this type of work can be seen as a potential to mitigate the migration pressures, as people in our partner countries can work locally from their country, but contribute and receive income from the international labor markets. All this is accompanied with a huge risk, because the competition now is global, there is higher competition, and for our partner countries, people face uneven access to digital infrastructure, and I would like to highlight here the threat that they face when we talk about inadequate policy regulations in this form of work. If they are initial, they still need to improve, or sometimes they do not exist. I will close with the next slide.
Mirella,
yes.
You have 1 minute.
Yes, in 1 minute, I will explain that all this being said, describing the methodology that we use, the results that we got from the previous study, we decided to not just repeat the work. So we are doing this work now in Ukraine on the same topic. We want to compare the results of the previous research with what we will get right now from Ukraine, but we updated the methodology. Why? Because we added another component, which is crucial, the survey. And first of all, with this new updated methodology, we can better identify and measure people inside platform work, because we have an EU directive, a recent one on platform work, and we use that definition. And based on the definition, we also, from the survey, we have more information about the different activities people execute while they are part of the platform work. And we try now to better understand dimensions that were not captured enough from the previous research, because we understand the importance of algorithmic management, the role the digital platforms play in shaping workers' opportunities and skills recognition. So we addressed specific questions to the workers. We try to understand from them how the digital platform assign tasks, their tasks, how these platforms keep track of the work they do, how they rate their work, and if the indicator performance they use can also restrict access to the workers for the next projects, for the next tasks and activities. All this will enrich the evidence and will also support, hopefully, the policy development of Ukraine. And if everything goes well, let's see the results, and it would be a great opportunity to repeat this in the Western Balkan countries. Thanks a lot. This is a work that we started in 2021, and I was not involved. It was my colleague Ivona Ganko who started the activity, and Eva Jansov also, another colleague, joined it, and other colleagues. Right now, in the new study that we are implementing in Ukraine in 2026, it is again Ivona with myself. We also have external experts supporting in this research, and let's see. We are right now executing the survey, and I'm happy to be part of another webinar where with Yvonne and other colleagues we will share the results, and we work with it in 2026.
Thank you, Mirela. That was a great and insightful presentation, and I remember the beginnings of this research work that was carried out by ETF, given that Serbia was involved in this part of work at the time. Before I ask questions that I'm interested in related to algorithmic management and skills, I would like to call colleagues to join the discussion and ask questions in the chat, raise hands, whatever you prefer. And if I don't see your hands raised, this is because maybe I don't have a very good overview of all the windows on my screen. So am I missing something? Hi, Najib.
Sorry, I was looking for the icon to click on to raise my hand. I didn't find it. Sorry. Yes, thank you very much, Mirela, for the presentation. Indeed, I'm also interested in platform work and online work. What I would like to add to this conversation, maybe a type of comment, is that where I live, which is where I live in Morocco, maybe it's happening also in other countries in the Balkans and elsewhere, is that on location platform work has become also a type of entrepreneurship, especially in rail, what we call a taxi or a rail hiding, hail riding business. So what we have now is that we have some people who have found an opportunity here. What they do is that they would rent a cars, for example, 5 cars, and they would place, let's say, drivers on these cars, and they pay the rent of the car with the money they make each day. So it has become so these people, they become entrepreneurs and they employ other drivers. This is a new phenomenon, which maybe I have observed only this year. I'm just checking if it is also happening elsewhere, or is, so far my idea is clear here. Thank you.
Mirela, would you like to answer this question? And then we have a few more in the chat, 2 more, and then I have a question as well. So we have little time, but a few questions.
Dear Najib, thank you for your comments. And we are right now exploring the labor market in Ukraine, and we also for ourselves, we recognize that what we had in mind 5 years ago is completely different from what is happening, the configuration of the country, and it depends also from one country to another. And that's why we also use support from local experts, because for the execution of the survey, we were thinking about the quota. If we want to look at the online labor market, to the online platform workers or on location platform workers. And while we, the first initiative, we were thinking mainly about online platform workers, local experts were telling us that, look, the situation is different. We need to take into consideration the on-location platform workers, because their situation is now completely different. They are playing an important role. And it's very also interesting for us to see now from the research and the work that has been done. We don't have yet these results. It's not only from the survey, but also the focus groups and stakeholders interviews that we are right now implementing. And I'm pretty sure that we will get examples like the one that you explained, or maybe tendencies that are completely different, but the market is changing so fast, so quickly, and we need just to run and to be aware of the signals and to follow them. And they also are country specific, and to take this also into consideration.
Thank you, Najib.
This is not an answer to your question, because it was more a comment that it should be taken into consideration when we go for a study in a specific region or in a specific country.
Mirela, so I would now pose two questions. One, again, going back to the definition and the difference between platform work, online and on location, and gig employment. So we have a question from Dimitar Nikolsky.
Yes.
In layman terms, please, and then I will go back to the algorithmic management and its importance for skill systems in so-called cloud work and on-location or on-location work. So please answer the question.
I hope to answer correctly to Dimitar's question. As I explained to you before, I hope it was clear the concept of platform work. And within platform work, there are also people who are doing gig tasks. So gig employment is mainly related to a short project, a short tasks. These are the characteristics of someone who is providing, is part of the gig employment. And sometimes these people are working within platform work. How does this happen? This happens if they use the digital platform as an intermediary. If they are not using the digital platform as an intermediary, they may be doing gig work, a short task, but they are doing maybe it independently for a customer, for a client, without the use of the digital labor platform. So the key concept here is the presence or not of the digital labor platform. If maybe I'm part of the gig employment, I'm executing several small tasks. Sometimes I may be using the digital labor platform. In that case, I'm part of the platform work. If I'm not using it, I'm doing it independently, remotely maybe, but I'm not using the digital platform work. In that case, I'm again part of the gig employment, but I'm not part of the platform work. I'd like to hear Dimitar's voice if he understood.
Okay, thank you, thank you. I will share a chapter that we on a gig economy in the post-COVID era that we produced several years ago together with my colleagues. I would like to share the link because we have a lot of common issues between platform work and gig employment. So those notions are very close in terms of their nature and their substance. So it is good to repeat sometimes the definitions for ourselves in order to be clear and to know exactly what we are talking about. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dimitar. At the beginning, I was not sure if I should share with you the first slide where we talk about the main concepts of new forms of work, but I thought maybe it was a good opportunity because even the EU directive on platform work is very recent and it defines what does it mean platform work. And it's also easy to to create confusion when we talk about the different forms of work.
A quick question for you, Mirella, before we move on. So when we started all our research, and we have colleagues here who've been pioneers when it comes to this kind of investigation related to platform work and policy response, algorithmic management was not a big topic. It kind of came to the surface with the directive, EU directive on platform work. But my question is not really about the directive, it is really about what is the biggest gap today between how skills are promoted and measured on online platforms, and now I'm thinking about cloud work and how they're recognizing policy. So if you can briefly touch upon it, because I think this is the main discussion line of today's presentations that we have ahead of us.
Well,
thank you.
Honestly speaking, I was also questioning myself why algorithmic management was not enough investigated 5 years ago. And probably my answer is that things have changed so fast that 5 years ago we were already navigating and trying to analyze platform work, which was relatively new for our partner, especially for our ETF partner countries. And now with this new study, let's see the results, but we are really trying to address specific questions that try to understand how the digital platform is rating people, because we recognize through the literature that while rating people, it also changes the signals and the visibility of the platform workers. And while platform workers in the past, they were also keen and very happy to be part of it, they also face huge risks because they may have the right skills to execute a specific service, but maybe platform work is able to trace down the different characteristics of each worker and opt for someone who provides a service, the same service with a much lower price. Because this is the aim also of the platform workers, to gain as much as possible from this type of services and projects. And while algorithmic management is accompanied with positive aspects if it is used in the right way, it has also a huge risk if it is used on the other side. That's why even at the EU level, we are trying to understand the gaps and how we can overcome them. But I believe this is a very complicated thing, because as we deep dive into overcoming the obstacles that come out from the algorithmic management, there are other loopholes that come out and need to be taken into consideration.
Thank you, Mirella. I very much agree with you, and I think we'll hear more reflections from our colleagues who are today with us. So now I give floor to Elvisa Drishti. She is one of the pioneers that I was talking about. She is a lecturer and researcher at the Faculty of Economics, University of Shkodra, from Albania. So Elvisa specializes in labor markets, digital transformation, and the changing nature of skills and employment. But she will today take us through the journey and show us how skills are no longer just qualifications, but actually data points. And I'm really looking forward to your presentation, Elvisa. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Branka. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm waiting for my slides to be shared. But in the meantime, I will just present myself again. And I am Elvisa Drishti from University of Shkodra, Albania, and one of my favorite topics to do research is algorithmic management and platform work. And today, what I want to do in the next few minutes is offer an Albanian view on the question that this webinar is built around. So when skills do become data, like rating scores and performance metrics, what happens to their visibility and their value? My argument is, in one sentence, that the Albanian algorithmic matching is not just an alternative to the credentialed skilled system. It's actively filling the gap that the system has failed to close, the traditional one, I mean the labor market. And it is doing so in on terms that workers actually do not set, but the platform and the employers do. So moving on to the next slide, I will do this in 6 short steps. The labor market paradox is the starting point, and then take a tour on the conceptual argument and introduce you to the bifurcation of the Albanian digital labor market, which I also think is somehow replicated also across the region. And then I will illustrate 3 concrete sites where skills become data, and a synthesis of how visibility and value are shifting. And finally, what this means for skills policy. So moving on to the next slide, and the other one, because I will start here. I will start with the Albanian labor market paradox. In this document, in this slide, I will refer mainly to the World Bank Spring 2026 Regional Economic Report. And on paper, Albania looks like the strongest labor market in the Western Balkans. Unemployment is 1/3 of a quarter. Unemployment in the 3rd quarter of the 2025 is at 8.1%, which is the lowest in the region, and the gender participation gap at 12 percentage points, also the smallest in the Western Balkans, and youth unemployment sits at 21.5%, which is well above the EU average of 14.7%. And informal employment is the highest in the region, almost 1/3, so 34%. And we are talking here about the non-agriculture labor market part. So 1 in 3 jobs in the non-agriculture sector is informal. And the World Bank report captures this tension precisely. Labor shortages coexist with high unemployment and low participation, while sustained out-migration drains the human capital base. Education attainment is rising, but credentials are not translating into productive markets. So employers reportedly say they cannot find workers, and workers also say they cannot find jobs and work. And both sides are telling the truth. The simplest way to read this is that the traditional skills system, diplomas, qualifications, occupational standards, are no longer clearing the market. Something else has to do the matching. And in our country, in Albania, and also I think in the region as well, this is looking increasingly algorithmic. Moving on to the next slide. So here, let me lay out the conceptual frame. There are broadly 2 ways to match a worker to a job. The first one is the traditional one, credentialed system. We all know, and I will go back to signaling theory from Michael Spence back in 1973. This is a slow, episodic, and costly to produce, and credentials are used as proxy for productivity. They signal, but they don't measure. So add some search frictions, regional mismatches, and gender mismatches, and in Albania, the system is visibly not closing the gap. The second way is the algorithmic matching. So it's a new segment that here rating scores and real-time performance data are in action. This is a continuous rather than episodic, as opposed to the old traditional credential system. It's observable rather than inferred. And the algorithmic dispatch reduces search costs to almost 0. In theory, this looks closer to the traditional competitive labor market ideal that economists describe in textbooks. But, and this is the central caveat, the pricing logic and the weighting of inputs are set unilaterally, so basically from the platform and the employer, while the worker is not being taken into account. So the worker sees the outcomes, but they do not see the function or the algorithmic or the equation that produced it. So the Albanian shift then is these platforms and employers are stepping into the matching gap that the credentialed system leaves open. And they are doing so by reducing skills to data they themselves own, so the platform owners and the employers. Moving on to the next slide. Thank you. This is the essential point, though. This transformation is not happening uniformly across the Albanian economy. So we have a bifurcated digital labor market. Bifurcated means divided into 2. also a bit related to the segmentation of the labor market in theory, so the primary then secondary segments. On one side, there is a small, fast-moving digital segment. This is diaspora connected, bilingual, internationally exposed. It runs through the public system, sometimes administration, for example, with the platforms that are being highly digitalized in Albania, like the Albania portal, DIELA system, which is a minister for algorithmic way to follow on procurements. And also the MIRA inspections metrics. This is a highlight of our state labor inspectorate system. Also, the other one is through business processing operations and call centers, which serve mainly to the Italian and Greek markets because of the literacy in terms of languages, and the high diaspora that is, and migrants that are allocated and relocated back in the country from these markets. So basically, this is done through banking and e-commerce, and also the other one is through freelance and platform work. 12% of Albanian firms report using AI. The country has roughly, and this is on the decrease, so 187 online freelancers per 100,000 of population. This is data from the Gig Meter, which many of the colleagues also follow and know. And in this segment, in this small, fast-moving digital segment, skills become data, and algorithmic matching reaches here. Now, on the other side, there is the low digital majority, like agriculture, informal economy, and traditional services. Agriculture is almost 20%, all around 1/5 of the gross added value in Albania. This is the highest of the Western Balkans. And also we have the largest informal employment segment, as I mentioned before. Basic digital skills here are very low, and out-migration is concentrated precisely among the low and medium skilled workers in this segment. So here skills remain a credential problem. And matching the gap I described earlier persists. So when we talk about visibility and the value of skills changing, we have to be clear. The paradox I opened with is concentrated on the right-hand side. Algorithmic matching solves it only on the left and only on platform terms. So basically in a one-sided way. Moving on to the next slide. Now, let me take you through 3 sites where I have observed skills becoming data in Albania. I talked about these concepts in theory, but they are also applied in the context of my country. The first site is platform work. Here skills become a reputation score the worker does not own. So basically they are matched, they are scored, they are valued, but then this data is owned by the platform and the owner of the algorithm. Customer star ratings, acceptance rates, completion rate, on-time rate, these are all metrics that determine whether the dispatch algorithm will allocate the next task to the worker or to somebody else. Reputation equals earnings, and reputation equals ranking, reputations equals future access to work, and the score is not portable. If you leave the platform, you are not taking your reputation with you. You start again from 0. The inequalities here are not theoretical. Female Albanian freelancers, for example, earn roughly $4.20 less than males. And a gap that has been unchanged since 2020, according to Gig Meter data. And on the lower skill end of the platform work, in March this year, the Confederation of Albanian Syndicates, which is a high rank member of the National Labor Council, supported the protest of fault couriers in Tirana. The headline demand this time was striking compared to the previous demands. It was not about wages. It was, and I quote them carefully, it was full transparency on how apps function and how payments are calculated. So this is the main, if I could mention a main event in terms of our industrial relations in Albania, where also the confederates now are not saying it's just a matter of earnings and work conditions, but also transparency. So this is the meaningful shift that these forms of work have brought about in terms of worker level, but also organizational level, syndicate level. The classical labor grievance has moved from wages to legibility. We want to know how these wages are calculated. We want transparency. And workers are no longer asking, what am I paid? But they want to know by what rule and against whose data. So moving on to the next slide. This is the second side. BPOs are acronym for business processing operations and call centers. The second side that I mentioned above, this is a large one in Albania, and because of our bilingual labor serving in Italian-speaking markets and also sometimes in Greeks as well. Here skills become continuously behavioral compliance. And one of the illustrations or examples that I want to bring here is the Teleperformanța one in Albania. So during remote work, workers were asked or were introduced to webcam monitoring. So they had to put cameras in their room, in their homes, and then the worker could monitor them through the camera. The union, the Sindicata Solidaritate, which is the union Solidaritate, filed a complaint because this was done in 2020, and they used the law, basically, not the workers, the syndicate organization. They used the Data Protection Commissioner, and then by the law they achieved, or they made it this surveillance track to stop. And the point I want to draw here is that the resolution came through the regulatory adjunction, not through the collective bargaining aspect or the syndicate. Workers did not contest the skill itself. They contested the data infrastructure used to measure it, so the compliance through web monitoring, through camera monitoring. And the survey data agree with these pictures. In the European Working Conditions Survey 2024, Albanian high-intensity computer users score 54 on work intensity, and this is the lowest on the Western Balkans 6 countries, against a regional average of 60 and in average of 64. That score is
excuse me, 1 minute.
Yes. This score is concentrated precisely on the BPO and call centers. Moving on to the next slide, and I will illustrate also the third side. This is the public administration one, where we have many examples, as I mentioned, eAlbania, Diela, and Mira. These are all algorithmic managements introduced for civil servants in our public sector side of the labor market. And what changed here for the workers is subtle but profound. The labor inspector's professional judgment, for example, in terms of Mira, the skills they are trained for is no longer the input of the decisions, it's the residual. They first have to run the algorithm, and then they have to correct or input their skills in terms of operating the system, not of overriding it. Again, I will move to the next slide. And yes, so basically the shifts in terms of that, skills as data are 4. And skills become dynamic rather than stable. They become reputational rather than credentialed. And they become bound rather than portable. And they become opaque or not visible rather than negotiable. Moving on to the next slide. In terms of the pressures that the Albanian vocational education training has now and isn't built for. So these 3 pressures are related in terms of the credential bypass and the national strategy in terms of employment and skills. And the country's qualification frameworks barely engage with platform-mediated or algorithmically managed work. So this is the fastest growing skill signaling channels in the Albanian labor market, and now they sit outside of the formal system entirely. The second one is through the transparency gap. So basically everything is reliant on the EU rules or leave it to the law approach. And in terms of the third one is the portability problem. So reputation built on platform stays in the platform. You cannot take it with you. If you go somewhere else, you start from 0. And then moving on to the last slide and my conclusions. I will close with this. The picture I have tried to give you is one in which Albania's labor market is being matched one rating at a time, where credentialed system fails to clear the market, the algorithm one steps algorithmic one steps in. And I want to be honest about something. For many Albanians on the digital side of the bifurcation, particularly for women, young graduates, diaspora connected, algorithmic matching is the only viable matching infrastructure that they ever had. It would be wrong to frame this as only a problem. It also provides opportunities. But the policy challenge is genuinely double-edged. On the digital side, we need to regulate demand transparency or build portable credentials. And on the low digital side, we need to rebuild matching capacity for the majority that the algorithm is leaving behind. The question I want to leave with this network is this: can public skills system do both at once? Or does matching keep migrating to spaces where workers have no voice? Thank you.
Thank you, Elvisa, very much. I love this concluding question because I think it is at the essence of our discussion today. Before we open the floor for questions, you can still post your questions in the chat. I will give floor to my dear colleague Nermin Oruç, who is a research director of the Center for Development Evaluation and Social Science Research. This long description stands for CREDI, the way we know it, from Bosnia and Herzegovina. And based on his extensive experience in labor market analysis and evidence-based policy making, I think that today Nermin is going to present and reflect on the challenges of the youth that they face in making their skills visible in this new data-driven environments. I know that he will proudly be talking about a new project. So Nermin, here we are. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Branka. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. I hope you don't mind me not having a PowerPoint presentation. After preparing so many slides, I highly appreciate, every organizer offering me opportunity not to prepare, one more. Although the topic is about, the title about, skills visibility, it may suggest, that, I'll be covering this issue, maybe, screening, signaling. So, it was a bit discussed. I would like to introduce the topic that is related to my current project that I think is of particular importance, and it is about the challenges faced by young workers in accessing entry-level jobs. And let me start with an anecdote. A couple of years ago, with emergence of AI, I talked to a colleague from Türkiye, academic, who I explained how AI can support her research in, summarizing documents, cleaning the data, even preparing some presentations. And then, her response was, "Wow, I don't need assistant anymore." And then, I guess as, any of us researchers who, come up with a couple of new research questions over, every coffee break, it made me think, how this AI is, bringing challenges for entry-level positions for young people, and creating some kind of products. We need skills for the jobs, but also we need jobs for the skills, and how we can really say skip this obstacle. So this really inspired a new research project that we are implementing with 5 other partners, and Bosnia, Serbia, Slovakia, Greece, and Bulgaria, which is going to really address this question of how to make AI a friend, not a foe of young people. So initially, as we know, let's say not only in platform work, but in traditional jobs as well, these entry-level positions were not continuous low-level jobs, but were really opportunities for young people to acquire knowledge. We are first rung on the ladder. these positions were giving young people, to really get, acquainted with their job, with job, work environment for the first time, especially, in, countries such as Bosnia, where we really do not have so many, practical work, apprenticeships, work-based learning during education. They really, we're giving young people opportunities to, experience some, repetitive tasks, to learn, how to make judgments, how to, make mistakes in lower risk settings and so on. So they were not really just, like repetitive tasks, but also like, education, let's say, on the job. Currently, we observe, I mean, as I said, personally, us, even in positions as academics, but, when talking to different employers in different sectors, we see this competition, we see this recognition that, there are, say, short-term efficiency gains, short-term benefits by, for employers of not employing, of replacing young people with an AI. So really, this raises the question, how will these young people acquire the skills that are, say, at a sufficient level that, employers are willing to employ them, not as competitors, but as more advanced users of the AI. So this is really an important challenge, that was recognized, even by, different research globally, conducted globally, available, like, World Economic Forum, which recognize that, these entry-level positions are really, under particular pressure. We don't see replacement of top managers, by AI, although, some of us may be looking forward to such a future, but, really these entry-level positions. So, I mean, we can discuss, let's say, how these, what are the experience, maybe, even personal, in different sectors, in different positions. But, I would like to really, say, point out to something I believe are really, policy implications, or, the solutions that we need to think of that will address this problem to make, say, these young people, more competitive to the, advanced users rather than competitors. First, I think it's really important to understand that, we need to improve educational system. Currently, the AI is not sufficiently introduced in the educational system. Young people are not equipped with skills in, advanced use of AI, which will communicate to employers that, there are still, benefits of employing young people rather than in replacing them. We see, for example, in discussion of different, different position, changes of jobs. For example, in IT, imply that, say, that the time saved on, writing codes now needs to be spent on validating, and this is where we, still need human intervention, and this is where we can really, say, empower young people by providing specific skills that they can apply. So, checking the outputs of the AI, validating, making judgments and so on, rather than competing on repetitive tasks that are currently, unfortunately, just, more effectively being performed by AI. Second thing is really revision or redesign of, employment support programs for young people, where we, instead of, dominant, for example, subsidy programs in, at least in Bosnia, I think, across the region, we need to think about, redesigning it by, providing appropriate trainings to these people to make them empowered for these, changing positions. And the third, I think, I mean, maybe idealistic, but, we need to, promote the role of employers that, is, say, within this ecosystem of skills development, where employers, can have short-term efficiency gains, but they still need to think about, longer-term skills development, investment in young people to acquire these specific skills that they will need even in an era of AI, being more effective than these. So these are, let's say, 3 points that I would like to highlight that, say, arise from this, recognition of specific challenges that AI brings to young people in accessing the labor market. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nedmin. Now the floor is yours. Colleagues and friends, questions. I hope you will have many, but before you start posting them in the chat or asking them through raised hand, I would like to go back to Elvisa's presentation. She made an important distinction between credentials and platform-based skills system. And she was really referring to individual platform-based skills system, if I understand well. So now my question is, what need to be done to make these algorithmically managed data-based skills visible on one side and portable beyond individual platforms? What we can do, for example, nationally, given that this system is really, let's say, related to larger value chains that we are part of. And then I'll have a question for Nermin. If you can think of one policy change that can improve young people's position in these digitally organized labor markets, what that would be, given the complexity of the time in which we are. So thanks.
Thanks, Branka. I will address your question to my presentation. One way to sort of formalize the reputation or scores or data that are taken from platforms for workers in the platforms is to find a way to integrate them with the vocational education training system, and our public employment offices can do something like provide micro-credential courses or some sort of certifications where workers are actually giving some agency over their reputation through our platform. So not every year is year zero when they change employment or they change platform. So some sort of formalization can be done through, vocational education training centers. Maybe universities can provide micro-credential courses that attribute to the worker, or in the way that a CV is enriched with other education or other forms of human capital. The reputation or the valuation that they had in the platform can be also attributed and given to the individuals to actually own and take with them when they move on through the labor market. So one way would be this. And I also think that workers for themselves can find ways or some sort of documentation of their trajectories to be taken out from the platform, and the data not stay only with the platform and the employer, but also be documented or some sort of formalized through their own CVs or the way how they present themselves. So maybe some badges or ratings can be actually passed from the platform to the individual, and this basically does something that takes out the reputation that the worker has in that system, and can use that as a sort of signaling for their next job. So basically some sort of mixing or ideas, some mixing from the traditional labor market with the digital one. But I'm also happy to hear from the colleagues if they have some sort of similar experiences in their countries, and whether they have practices where or small good practices where these things have been actually done or moving one step forward compared to the Albanian one that we are actually just discussing for this in theory, and not many things or in terms of policy approach have been taken to address these issues or the bifurcated labor market that I have presented.
Thank you. I think that we have a question that is a follow-up. Vardan is asking, should the platforms be regulated as natural monopolies or gaming industry is regulated to avoid actually exploitation of algorithms? So what is your take?
I think syndicates as well, or industrial relations of the way how unions operate in terms of the EU directive on platform work and their acknowledgement and literacy in terms of the conditions of workers and the way how they organize can actually act as a sort of they can actually amortize these differences between the institutions, workers, employers, and platform, and also the organization of workers. So basically, if you have literate union or platform workers unions that actually know the difficulties of the profession, then they can advocate and then they can educate the workers as well. So they can negotiate. For example, in the case of both workers in Albania, we had two major protests in end of 2025 and actually March in 2026, because they don't know how they are employed by the platform. They go there through agencies, but the agency, the terms and conditions keep changing or they don't read them well. And the moment where the tourist season happened and the orders started increasing, the payment, the rate changed. And then they can do nothing about that because they didn't negotiate their entry. And then they are, then we have the Confederation of Albanian syndicates advocating for them, but they still usually use the traditional way of advocating. They do mainly some sort of press media conferences, and that's it. They cannot take it one step further. So I think even the unions themselves need to evolve to adapt to the new segment of the labor market, but also they also need to be literate about the new forms of work and the demands that this form of work has, including the credential system and including the conditions of work and the new ways or the agency that they need to have for themselves as a union, but also at the worker level.
Thank you. Now, Nermin, please, if you can respond to my question, and we have a question that relates to both of you about employment of platform workers in your countries.
Yeah, okay. Let me address both. First, your question, regarding policy responses. I believe we really need, systemic response in terms of, embedding, AI literacy, AI skills in education system, which will really bring, which will, as I said, empower young people to really, not compete, but, really be, skilled users of AI that, then gives, say, the argument for employer not to replace them by AI, but employ them as, say, augmentation of it. But I think this requires longer term period. ETF is currently conducting selfie for teacher surveys in a couple of countries of the Western Balkans to assess digital competencies of teachers, and we know we all know at which level it is. So we need to really empower teachers who will then empower students. So it is a longer term, I would say, intervention for which we don't have time for in the shorter term. We really need to think about active labor market programs, informal, non-formal education that will really allow these people acquire skills and be sufficiently be capable to take over these positions that were not anymore in that format of entry-level repetitive task jobs that are being replaced by AI. And the second question from Alexander, what we can say although there is no, direct proof of, causal relationship. But, after we have conducted, together with colleagues from other countries, this, fair work research on platform work, a couple of months later, platform workers were recognized in the revision of the labor law as a specific form of work, with basically the protection that is the rights that are offered to other workers. Previously, they were mainly in the informal work because they were not really legally recognized as such workers, as there were, the market is not offering sufficient flexibility in terms of the types of labor contracts. So, they were mainly in the informal employment.
Elvisa?
Yes, Alexander, I saw your question and I will address it as well. My answer in general is it depends. When we did also the Fair Work ratings, but also after the Fair Work 2023 ratings in Albania, we saw that it depends on the size of the employer. So very large employers, they have to formalize all of them, the workers, but they still depends on the platform. For example, the locally owned platforms, they are hired through direct contact worker and human resources. The other ones like Volt, because after the Fair Work ratings, Volt entered in Albania, they are hired through agencies. So there is an intermediary. And the agency determines basically the conditions of work. So, and the status that they have is mainly as a self-employed worker. So if you are self-employed, the labor code can do nothing for you. And this is the gap, or the legislation gap that is between the status of the worker and the self-employed. The other one is that as many times as workers in platforms, especially ride-hailing workers, where they have also security issues in terms of health and also occupational safety, they try to establish or start a union, but most of the time our labor code requires 20 full-time workers before starting, and this became the main barrier, because some of them, as Nermin mentioned, in the smaller platforms are informal. In the sense that whether the new law or labor inspectorate are doing something to put aside or some sort of identification of platform workers, no. They are working to transpose the EU directive on platform work. They are recognized through the Institute of Statistics labor force survey data as workers whose place of work is not the office or home, but in their vehicle or their car for taxi drivers or their motorcycle. But I don't think there is still a formalization or some sort of acknowledgement from the institution in terms of platform workers. It's still considered a peripheral sector or something that will change, that they are waiting to change, either to become that big that it cannot be ignored, or is maybe decreasing or reducing in terms of shares. This is happening in terms of online or remote workers, but in terms of geographically tethered workers, the numbers are still, I don't know, we don't have a proper documentation of them. So probably I think it's like in progress work scene. So we will see how this will evolve.
Thank you, Elvisa. And just to maybe conclude this block, we all know that the transposition of EU Platform Work Directive is taking place in many European countries. They should be completing this work until 2026, where actually the recognition and presumption of employment is there and should be transposed in local legislation. And algorithmic management also becomes an important part of labor legislation. So now this third block will go back to the policy, and now we really turn to the key question, what these algorithmic management changes mean for skills systems, and what is policy response, if any, in our regional context. First, I will hear from Melinda Rizvanoli from Swiss contact. She is the project manager of the Matching Skills to Job project, working on improving alignment between skills system and labor market needs through data-driven approaches. And this is an important and interesting project that she will present today. And then we will move to the regional perspective and have a conversation after these two presentations. Melinda, please. I'll pass it on.
Okay, thank you, Branka. So hello to everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this webinar with a very interesting topics. So I'll start briefly explaining about the project Matching Skills to Jobs. The project is actually a Swiss-funded project implemented by Swiss Contact. We are currently in the second year of the implementation. Actually, we are tackling more the VAT system overall in improving the conditions, being it in the formal part of the VAT system, but also in responding with non-formal training solutions based on the demand coming from the private sector. Coming back to the MSG project name, I would just like to emphasize that we have a very fancy name. Traditionally, matching skills to jobs meant aligning formal qualifications with predefined occupations. But today, labor markets are changing much faster. Increasingly, work is mediated through digital systems, platforms, and data-driven performance management. So this is making it even more challenging, and we are, as a project, we are observing and trying to solve this. This means that employers are not only looking for formal qualifications, but also adaptability, digital competencies, problem solving, ability to operate in a continuously changing environment. In many sectors, actually, we know that work is increasingly organized and evaluated through digital tools and platforms. And as a result, skills are being recognized not only through diplomas, but through performance, responsiveness, and data systems. Coming back to the matching skills to jobs, because at first I just wanted to give an overall explanation and snapshot of what is happening in the markets. I would like just to emphasize again that the project actually is working in two main pillars. The first pillar has to do with strengthening the governance system of the VAT in Kosovo, where we have to deal mainly with the formal part of the education, working with the main stakeholders and trying actually to support them in a policy making and also the new policies which they should strengthen. And from the other side, also, we are working in the second component also directly with the private sector in following the agnostic approach. So we are not actually focused in specific sectors. So we are quite open. And we are trying actually to support private companies and which operate in Kosovo in order to support them to find innovative solutions on how they can respond to the challenges they are facing based on the needs which they have. In order to explain and dive further in this, I have to emphasize that the donor has requested to have these two separate components because the first component takes time, actually, and we are aware if we want to strengthen the VAT governance and the VAT system, in the formal part, this takes time, whereas from the other side, we have a private sector which is quite vibrant and has new requirements, new demands. So throughout the project, we are trying actually to facilitate and to support them to actually find industry-led solutions in actually addressing their needs in the skills development part. Coming back to this, from the first observations which MSG found during the first year of implementation, we can emphasize that we could see that companies increasingly seek and need digital literacy. So this is something which we have found out and which has made us aware that we should support them in this direction. Another observation is adaptability, then operational problem solving, communication and coordination skills. And this is coming as a major need because skills needs evolve faster than formal curricula, and employers often value practical competencies more than formal credentials alone. The digital economy is accelerating these dynamics. Even in traditional sectors, we could see in Kosovo that companies started to use digital tools, data systems, and performance-based management approaches, changing both job roles and skills expectations. Having these observations as matching skills to jobs project, we could see that there are certain challenges also which are happening nowadays. And one of the key challenges today is not only to develop skills, but making them visible and understandable to employers. So the project role is also to facilitate actually this interconnection between the policymakers and also the employers. And how we are doing this, the relevant mechanisms which we are trying actually to introduce is to have a stronger employer engagement in curriculum discussions, then strengthening work-based learning and internship, then strengthening and defining the sector dialogue mechanisms, having closer interaction between companies and training providers, practical demonstration of competencies, and increasing focus of transferable and applied skills. In terms of what kind of what disconnects are existing in our current Kosovo system. One of the biggest disconnects in our system is that the formal skills systems are still largely structured around stable occupations and predefined career pathways, while labor markets are becoming much more fluid, dynamic, and digitally mediated. Challenges include qualifications update slowly. We can see it. This is not only a case in Kosovo, but it's also in the regional context in other countries. Occupational standards lag behind market changes, while as employers increasingly recruit based on practical skills, adaptability, digital familiarity, and real-time performance capacity. In many digital mediated labor market segments, skills are increasingly validated through performance and responsiveness rather than only through formal credentials. I will just give you briefly try to introduce one of the examples and innovations which the project already actually started to support. And it's linked to the topic which is in relation to the topic today. We see that we have actually constantly requests, and the environment is changing in the private sector. And one of the initiatives which we have decided as a project to actually co-fund and to support, it's a Ascendio platform which has been developed by a company here, a local company, which is oriented more into exports market. It has to do with service and BPO. So Ascendio is a platform which is actually supporting the BPO businesses in actually training the employees inside in the companies, but also actually monitoring the performance of the employees within the BPO sector companies. Via actually while through observing and through performance evaluation throughout the work the employees are doing, actually generating also solutions on how these specific employees could undertake specific actually modules to be trained and respond to the requirements of the companies, but also to upgrade their skills. I have just to explain that this platform actually to present that this platform was last week launched by the Speaks company. And I was actually witnessing the discussions from the other companies and from the freelancers in trying to actually understand what will be the consequences if this platform will be started to be used in Kosovo. And it was quite interesting to see because Ascendio has already been launched and is being used in EU countries. But Speaks company is actually struggling to actually make aware the local companies to use the platform also for their own needs in the BPO sector. The questions which have been raised by the participants in the launching event, it was that it's related to the discussions which I already heard from the previous speakers, that the freelancers felt a bit scared and hesitant to use the platform by asking if this platform is going to be used by a company which they are actually serving outside. And if this platform might, they were considering that it might be, how to say, perceived as a risk because the employers could actually see and observe where the employees are lacking actually there's the skills, and they could be actually put on risk to get fired. So this was something which came out from the participants, from the freelancers. While as from the company owners at the local level, this platform was perceived quite interesting because was perceived as very innovative tool which would support actually the mid-management level at the company level. To see where the employees are lagging while they do their daily work. And actually, the platform will translate immediately into the modules which could support the employees to improve their skills. And the managers would be able actually to see if the employees are advancing and they are actually advancing in the skills and competencies which they were lagging. One of the innovations which were also presented in this platform, it was that the platform was using actually a tailored approach. So it was not that the solutions which were provided to specific employees or to all employees were standard. But the trainings were tailored based on the needs observed inside in the platform while they were being monitored throughout their daily work. They were conducting the services to the outside market. So we consider that this launching event, it was a kind of quite interesting to see also the observations from different groups, being it from the local companies, which they are providing services abroad or in the local market, but also looking how this is perceived, this innovative platform, how it's perceived by the freelancers, which they considered it as a risk for their future engagement and employment if it starts to be applied and used by the companies, which usually they get a job. So I just wanted to share this. Maybe you will have questions in relation to this platform. But coming back to what we are...
Linda, I'm sorry to interrupt. We need to conclude quickly in a minute. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So I will just want to wrap up this, what I spoke about It's for sure that challenges are there. We are facing challenges not only in Kosovo, but all over the world and also in the region. And considering what we are looking as a project and looking from both sides, so working with the policymakers and working from the company side and the very dynamic private sector, what needs to change, I would like also to wrap up it and say that we need to have more agile skill systems, because day by day we see that formal education is not capable in responding to the needs of the private sector. So we need to introduce more non-formal training approaches and solutions. We need to have more stronger employer engagement and not occasionally. So they should be continuously in a structured way engaged. Then greater emphasis should be put on transferable skills, digital literacy, adaptability, communication, and problem solving, and better labor market intelligence, anticipating emerging skills needs, and using data more efficiently. So as a conclusion, I would say that the challenge is no longer only identifying what skills are needed, what was previously done, and aiming to actually advise the policymakers, but ensuring that the systems can respond quickly enough to changing the definitions of work, which every labor market is challenging nowadays. Thank you very much, Branka, and I'm open to the questions if there are questions.
Thank you, Melinda. This was really interesting. I've learned about this platform just a day before, but would like to reflect on it later. Before we open the floor for questions, I will give now the floor to Sandra Brkanovic. She is the director of the Education Reform Initiative of Southeastern Europe. We call it ERISE here. And I think that Sandra will reflect on these regional challenges and regional cooperation, providing insights how we can better align skill systems across the Western Balkans in response to algorithmically managed work. Sandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Branka, and hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting ERISE to contribute to this discussion and to this webinar. As you said, my name is Sandra Brkanovic, and today I will briefly present our perspective of algorithmically managed work and the changing of labor market expectations and skills development in the Western Balkans. We can move to the first slide. I just will briefly introduce this international intergovernmental institution, which was established by governments of Southeastern European countries with the aim of strengthening regional cooperation in education and training and supporting education reforms in the region. ERISE member countries are Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Moldova, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Serbia. Kosovo has an observer status and is included in all our activities. It is important to mention that we work closely with policymakers, with ministries of education, with VET agencies, qualification authorities, teacher training institutions, chambers of commerce, and of course with international partners. I can see that within the participants our colleagues from North Macedonia, our partners, I would like to greet them. Our work is directly connected to skill system development based on labor market needs. We are talking today about labor market needs, about changing of technologies, and of course, a system needs to react on that. And this topic of algorithmically managed work is connected to our regional work as well, as changes in labor market raise questions about which competencies become really important and how education system respond to this new competencies needed, and how learners and workers are prepared for changing forms of work and forms of education. We have heard today about new forms of work, different worker profiles, and needed skills in digital era where we are. And it is important to pay attention to that in order to establish new forms of teaching and learning. It is very important nowadays. We can go to the second slide, please. Through regional cooperation, our activities works on development of regionally based occupational and qualification standards. That's something what we developed regionally, and we are well known for that. I mean, ERIC as organization. We also work on curricula development on the regional level, then teacher trainings and continuous professional development of teachers, which is also a very important topic to us. Development of teaching and learning materials, that is something what we started to do regionally, and we will continue because we made really good basis for that. Very important thematic priority for us is work-based learning, lifelong learning initiatives, and adult learning, and of course quality assurance in pre-tertiary and university level. We are also in charge for university level. We had in the previous 10 years some regional initiatives, some projects, and I will emphasize TOREGOS and ECET. TOREGOS is 2 regional occupational standards, that's abbreviation, and the other one is enhancing quality in education and training in Southeast Europe. And we worked together with VET agencies. We had national coordination points within VET and within business, so we worked with chambers of commerce as well, and sector experts from across the Western Balkans in the development of occupational standards, qualification standards, and curricula. And we develop up to now these documents in sectors like construction, tourism and hospitality, agriculture, transportation and logistics, mechatronics, and industrial occupations linked to digital technologies. And these results gave us very important practical insights about what labor market across the region really needs. Because when we decided what to develop regionally and what to endorse regionally, we had to talk to partners which represented the region and to define priorities and which occupations are important for the whole region. And during regional discussions, we realized that the economies use similar terminology, similar qualification structures, similar approaches to describe occupations and competencies. That's why we developed regional methodology for development of occupational and qualification standards. And it means that we have developed methodology which we have been using on the regional level, and all our countries have their national methodologies, which they use to translate the regional document when we develop regional document to national document. When I say translate, I don't mean only on the language translation, I mean also methodological translation. And these documents are adopted by National Council, so they are very much important on the policy level. During our work, we had experts from the fields present at our regional meetings, and we have developed common occupational standards defining what a person really need to do in that profession. And that includes preparation activities, operational work, communication activities, commercial activities, monitoring of work, basic maintenance, health and safety, and all occupational standards have these packages, And we define their common activities, and then we translate that to learning outcomes when we develop qualification standards and curricula. And this, what I'm talking about, make regional cooperation extremely important, because all of us do the same thing in our countries, and we regionally endorse this. And ERISE coordinates these activities and presents a bridge between national and regional needs from one side and the European recommendations from the other side. And through discussions and our joint workshops and standard development processes, we learned from each other, we exchanged experiences and aligned our approaches, and it's had really important regional dimensions. And as this labor market rapidly is changing, that's what we heard today, it is very important that our occupational and qualification standards which we developed reflects these real aspects of regional labor market needs. And we need faster exchange of information and more flexible approaches to qualification and skills development. We can go to the next slide. As we know, today work is organized, monitored, and evaluated through digital systems. Because of this, labor market expects different combinations of competencies than before. And of course, we need technical knowledge, and it is still important. And this technical knowledge are based on operational tasks from occupational standards, but all occupations need digital competencies, and it doesn't mean that that person needs to be IT programmer or someone who is from that field. We are talking about digital competencies in every field, in auto mechanical field, in agriculture, in tourism and hospitality. So digital competencies is a broader, I'm talking about broader approach. We need, of course, communication skills, as we heard today, problem solving, teamwork, and of course, flexibility and readiness to learn and to continue learning and working on ourselves all the time. In many sectors, workers are expected, as I said, not only to perform tasks, but also to be in line with changing technologies and the organization of work and the labor market expectations. That's why algorithmically managed work is accelerating these changes. And as work processes become faster, the education system needs to respond to these changes as soon as possible. Next slide. So there are some benefits, of course, from algorithmic management: more efficient organization of work, faster processing of information, better coordination, less administrative burden, optimization of work processes, but also it raises important concerns that some work can become highly controlled and measured. Workers may lose autonomy. Evaluation criteria are not always transparent. Pressure on performance increases. And from that perspective, the education systems, from the perspective of the education system, it is not a question, are we going to have this digital transformation? We are already in this digital transformation, but we need to embed this human and soft skills which are going to be embedded in parallel in our educational systems. Next slide. Our lessons learned from the regional standards development. For example, there are some sectors which are traditionally focused on technical and manual skills, but all skills, as I said, need some key competencies which we embedded in our educational systems. It means literacy competence. I'm talking about 8 recommendations of key competencies of lifelong learning recommended by European Commission. And it includes literacy, multilingual competence, mathematical, STEM, digital competence, personal, social, and learning competence, citizen competence, entrepreneurship, and cultural awareness. That's what we embedded in all our occupational qualification standards, and it is important to have them in parallel with professional competencies which we really need to embed in our systems. And what we benefit from our regional cooperations is that economies do not need to respond to these changes alone. We are all together and we connect to each other, change our experience, and develop what we need to develop. Next slide. The implementation is the biggest challenge. I wanted to emphasize that whatever we developed, we have really good documents. We are in line with recommendations. We are in line with our labor market needs. But if we not invest in our teachers, in our teachers who had their education maybe finished 20 years ago, 15 years ago, they were not a part of these changes which we are talking about these days. So we need to tailor very dedicated trainings for them, and we need to somehow influence on their mindset that they need to work on themselves continuously and to learn not only how to perform and how to perform in their own profession, but how to adjust their teaching and learning in an environment in these challenges which we are facing now. Next slide. I know that I'm need to finish soon. So very important is the role of lifelong learning and flexible learning pathways, modular learning, including micro-credentials, which we heard about today, lifelong learning opportunities, recognition of competitions acquired through non-formal and informal learning. And this is especially important because many competencies today are developed directly through work experience and adapted to changing work environments. It means that education systems need to become more flexible and much faster in responding to changing skill needs. And one more slide. As I said, the regional cooperation is very important because we are here together, and we can cooperate through exchange experiences to better understand these changing skills needs, to strengthen comparability of qualifications and occupational standards, and respond faster to labor market transformation, and to finally reflect from the perspective of REC, that's the final slide. This requires stronger implementation capacity, investment in teachers and trainers, as I said, in lifelong learning, and the stronger regional cooperation, which we are going to continue working on as this is our role and as this is why we are established. I tried to be brief. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandra. Yes, you were brief, but I think that the presentation was really rich. You mentioned a lot of challenges and a lot of work that REC is doing, but if you would need to prioritize and decide on one really important action that would make the biggest impact on this challenging credential skills dichotomy, what that would be? I know that I'm asking a hard question, but I'm just curious. And I will have a question also for my Linda. And please, colleagues, we can stay until 12:05. So the floor is open also for your questions.
Okay, so regional cooperation is very important. It's hard for me to extract only one important thing which you asked for, but changing not only experiences, but it is very important that we are on the same way. And when we change experiences and find a solution, where are we going to be connected? We will find also topics on which are we going to work on. So you now emphasized this topic, algorithmic management. I'm already thinking about that topic in our network, because it is going to be interesting to hear. It is always interesting to hear what is new, and to hear about idea how to connect to each other and how to resolve our problems and potential problems in the regional from the regional perspective. So this changing of experiences make the best connection. I was a part, because I'm coming from the system, I'm coming from the VET Center of Montenegro. Before I took this position in November 2025, and I was a part of ERIC's activities from that point of view. And I can say that from the systematic point of view and from that level, this regional cooperation was really rich and really and had really great impact in my country, and I know that it had really great impact in the region. So it is a great pleasure that we can cooperate together.
Thank you. Yeah, I know that the question was hard, but still I needed to ask it. And then, Melinda, you outlined interesting experiences from your work and challenges that are ahead. When you think about VET system, what do you think should be done to keep this system relevant in this changing environment? We touched upon different kinds of responses, maybe macro credentials, certificates, so on and so forth. So how to blend this all into one meaningful response?
Yeah, thank you, Branka, for the question. Very interesting question. From the experience which I have also throughout working with the VET system for more than 24 years in supporting the system, I think actually, in order to respond to these very quick changes which are happening in the skills requirements and the skills demand from the companies and also from the labor market, I think that the VET system should be more pragmatic, actually. And I'm saying this because I heard already Sandra explaining with the occupational standards and requirements. We have the same setup also here in Kosovo. But I think that VET systems, the formal systems, are suffering from these bureaucratic requirements, which are not capable actually to respond quickly to the labor market demands. So I think one of the key things which should be actually intervened, it is to simplify also the procedures and bureaucratic, because this is also tiring the private sector engagement. They hesitate to go and to contribute so they can respond actually in the requirements, what in the they can actually advocate toward their needs and the demand they are having actually. And another thing which I would like also to emphasize, it's very important for the formal part. What I said so far, it was mainly in relation to the formal part of the education. While as for the non-formal part, which is the reskilling and upskilling, it should be put much more emphasis in this part, because this part makes possible this flexibility, micro-credentials, and release also from the bureaucratic burden. And I'm saying this because here in Kosovo, we are suffering also from this part. And the institutions are not capable actually in offering training programs which could respond immediately to the needs which the labor market needs. So this is something which comes from my mind and also from my experience.
Thank you. So if you, dear colleagues and friends, have any more questions, you can pose them now by raising your hand. We just have like a minute for quick questions and for responses. If not, I'm waiting. I think that this webinar opened many questions. I'm not sure how many of these questions we managed to provide answers to. However, this is only the beginning of continuous conversation related to digital labor markets and the one that now intersect with traditional labor markets. So we'll see how all these formal and non-formal education systems are going to respond to these challenges. I would now like to give the word to Christiana and to thank again to all the speakers, my colleagues from the Western Balkans and Turkey, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all in the future and continuing actually the work together and discussion that we've started.
Thank you.
Thank you, Branka. Thank you, big thank you to all the speakers today for all these inspiring presentations. They were all really thought-provoking and inspiring. And also thanks, Branka, for the highly professional moderation and the timekeeping, which was not an easy task in addition to the rest. I have to say exactly that a number of ideas were raised and so inspiring. I mean, it's clear that these algorithms are heavily impacting the skills dimension. Very impacting skills development, skills measurement, and workers' access to opportunities, as we see that the power of skills now can shift from workers to the employers or the platform itself. We have seen today, I mean, the number of challenges brought forward by artificial intelligence to young people in accessing the labor market, to the formal education systems, because generally they are too much linked to traditional occupations and not always in a position to keep the pace of fast changing labor markets. We don't have a solution to that, but I would tend to see among the possibles way ahead as a priority with flexibility in the learning pathways. So lifelong learning, informal and informal learning, increased use of micro-credentials. I think that all of these elements can really help to address the challenges brought forward. Of course, we don't have the answer, but I think there is work to be done in these directions. I would like to close here and thank you all again. As I was putting in the chat earlier, there are all the presentations, the materials, and also the recordings from the webinar, including a summary that will be produced where we will try to also include all the links which were kindly shared by colleagues in the chat, will be published in ETF Open Space, and we will send you the link to the page when everything will be uploaded. And I just wanted to remind you of the opportunity to use the Skills Lab network LinkedIn group, which I would like really to see even more used as a tool to exchange ideas. This webinar was also promoted and disseminated on that page of the Skills Lab Network LinkedIn. I think if you have any additional comments, we can link to that, and it can be a further place for exchanging. Thank you all so much. Looking forward to staying in contact and to meet you in the next activities of the network. So stay tuned with emails. You will receive all the information about the upcoming actions in your email. And thanks a lot again. And I wish you all a good rest of the day. And bye. See you soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.